Welcome, thrill seekers, to a world of spine-chilling tales and hair-raising adventures. Gather around for a frightful journey into the unknown as we delve deep into the realm of scary stories. Buckle up, hold on tight, and get ready to experience a rush of terror like never before. It was a hot summer day in New York City, and I was at my desk, staring at my computer screen. As a freelance journalist, I was always on the lookout for interesting stories to pitch to my editor. I needed to come up with something unique and captivating that would get her attention. That's when I stumbled upon a news article about an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. The article claimed that the warehouse had been closed for over a decade and that it had become a haven for homeless people and drug addicts. But something about the place intrigued me. There was an air of mystery and danger surrounding the warehouse, and I couldn't resist the temptation to explore it. I pitched the idea to my editor, and she loved it. She gave me the green light to investigate the abandoned warehouse and write a feature about it. I was excited to start the project, but little did I know what I was getting myself into. I arrived at the warehouse early on a Monday morning, armed with my camera and notepad. The building was massive, with a towering brick facade that had seen better days. The windows were boarded up, and the entrance was barricaded with metal bars. The place looked like it had been abandoned for centuries, not just a decade. As I approached the building, I noticed a group of homeless people huddled together near the entrance. They eyed me warily, and I could sense their hostility. I tried to ignore them and focused on finding a way into the building. After circling the perimeter of the warehouse, I found a gap in the fence and squeezed through it. I made my way to the entrance and pried off one of the metal bars with a crowbar. The sound echoed through the empty building, and I half expected the homeless people to come rushing towards me. But nothing happened. The homeless people remained where they were, and I stepped inside the warehouse. The interior of the warehouse was dimly lit, with only a few shafts of light penetrating through the boarded-up windows. The air was musty and stale, and I could hear the sound of rodents scurrying around. I started to explore the building, taking photos and jotting down notes. The place was huge, with rows upon rows of shelves and boxes. It looked like it had been used as a storage facility at some point, but there was no sign of any recent activity. As I wandered deeper into the warehouse, I noticed something strange. There were strange symbols scrawled on the walls, written in what looked like blood. They were cryptic and unnerving, and I couldn't decipher their meaning. I continued to explore the building, my curiosity piqued by the strange symbols. That's when I stumbled upon a locked door. It was made of solid metal, with a large padlock securing it shut. I tried to pry it open with my crowbar, but it wouldn't budge. I decided to come back later with better tools and continued my investigation. That's when I heard something that made my blood run cold. It started as a faint whisper, barely audible above the sound of my own breathing. But as I listened, the voices grew louder and more distinct. At first, I thought it was the homeless people outside, but the voices sounded different. They were guttural and raspy, like they belonged to something inhuman. I tried to follow the sound, but it seemed to be coming from all directions. It was as if the voices were echoing through the entire building. As I walked, the voices grew louder, and I could make out words. They were speaking in a language I didn't understand, but the tone was unmistakably menacing. It felt like the voices were closing in on me, and I started to panic. I realized that I needed to get out of there. I turned to leave, but something stopped me in my tracks. In front of me stood a figure, shrouded in darkness. It was tall and thin, with long arms and legs that seemed to stretch on forever. Its face was obscured, and I couldn't make out any features. I froze, not sure what to do. The figure started to move towards me, and I could hear its footsteps echoing through the warehouse. I tried to run, but my legs wouldn't cooperate. I was rooted to the spot, staring in horror as the figure closed in on me. That's when it spoke. The figure's voice was raspy and cold, like ice scraping against my skin. It spoke in a language I didn't understand, but somehow I could comprehend its meaning. It told me about the warehouse's dark history, about the unspeakable acts that had been committed within its walls. It spoke of rituals and sacrifices, of a cult that had worshipped an ancient god. As it spoke, the symbols on the walls started to glow, and the air grew thick with a sickly sweet scent. I could feel the figure's breath on my face, and I knew that I was in grave danger. I don't know how I managed to break free, but I found myself running towards the exit, my heart pounding in my chest. The voices grew louder, and I could feel the figure's presence behind me. I burst through the door, and the sunlight blinded me. I stumbled out into the street, gasping for air. When I turned back to look at the warehouse, it was as if nothing had happened. The building was still abandoned, the windows still boarded up. But I knew what I had seen, what I had experienced. I wrote up my story, submitting it to my editor. But she didn't believe me. She thought I had made it up, that it was just a ploy to get attention. I tried to convince her, showing her the photos and notes I had taken. But she dismissed them as circumstantial evidence. I knew that I couldn't let this go. I had to find out more about the warehouse, about the cult and the ancient god they had worshipped. So I went back. I broke into the warehouse again, armed with a better camera and more tools. But this time, I wasn't alone. I had contacted a paranormal investigator, someone who had experience with the supernatural. Together, we explored the warehouse, searching for any evidence that could corroborate my story. We found more symbols on the walls, more evidence of the cult's activities. We even found a hidden room where the rituals had taken place. But we also found something else. Something that sent shivers down our spines. In the hidden room, we found a statue. It was ancient, made of some unknown metal, and it depicted a creature with tentacles and wings. It was the god that the cult had worshipped. But that wasn't the most shocking discovery. As we examined the statue, we noticed something strange. The statue was warm. Not just warm, but hot. It was as if the statue was alive, pulsing with an otherworldly energy. Continued in the second part.